World War I and World War II are the two most brutal wars in human history. The effects of these wars on the world were devastating, leaving millions dead and even more separated from their loved ones. These two wars took place almost a century ago, but still have many lessons that are often overlooked. Both wars revolved around similar ideologies. The primary causes of both wars stem from the same general misunderstanding and distrust between governments and their people. Both World War I and World War II also ended with nearly all nations involved in the war signing peace treaties to prevent any further conflicts. But it didn't seem to work out well the first time. Welcome back to Comparison World Facts. So let's take a closer look at some astonishing similarities between the two world wars and see which one was deadlier. Also, be sure to like the video and subscribe. We wouldn't want you to miss out on any of our upcoming content. Why did World War I start? The First World War started in late June 1914 and lasted more than 4 years, resulting in the death of around 9 million military personnel and 10 million citizens. The war also led to an additional 21 million people that were wounded. So, could the Second World War really top that? So, how did the war start? Europe had been on a war footing for years prior to the Great War. Many historians characterized Europe at the time as an area where a large-scale war was inevitable. The following are a few of the concerns that led to the war. One of the biggest reasons for the war was that Europe was divided into alliances and treaties. Military alliances and treaties between the European powers divided much of Europe. Because of these alliances and treaties, if one country or power bloc went to war, the others were likely to as well. The two sides in Europe were Austria-Hungary, Germany, and the Ottoman Empire, later Turkey. And on the other side, the alliance of Britain, France, and Russia. Italy, which was allied with the Central Powers at first, refused to be drawn into what they saw as their war of aggression. But in May 1915, Italy joined the Entente, hoping to gain territory from Austria-Hungary and African colonies. Japan and the United States, strong non-European nations, sided with the Allied powers during the war. Smaller European nations picked sides, and their colonies and dominions contributed soldiers. The murder of Austrian Archduke Franz Ferdinand on June 28, 1914, which was traced back as a Serbian extremist group, prompted a series of events that resulted in the war starting in early August 1914. But for years before the assassination, the major powers in Europe had been preparing for war. Europe was seen as a powder keg waiting to explode long before war broke out. The other critical factors in the build-up to war were the two alliances were focused on building more extensive and more powerful armies and navies as part of an arms race. Trade and land disputes had been on the rise. Additionally, Europe's balance of power was unsatisfactory to most countries. Remember, at that time, the British Empire was massive. Up next, why did World War II start? In 1939, Hitler gave orders for the invasion of Poland, which he believed would be safe from Soviet or British intervention. After signing a secret document with Russia, as they agreed to divide Poland between them, so Germany planned an invasion. After deploying an estimated 1.5 million men, Germany defeated Poland within the first few weeks. But Hitler thought Germany could invade Poland without any intervention from the British. Still, before the invasion, Britain signed an agreement with Poland stipulating Britain would come to its aid should Germany invade. Hitler, who knew this to be the case, would still set on Poland though. So the invasion of Poland began as scheduled on August 31st, 1939, at 4:45. It was in response to this invasion that Great Britain and France declared war on Germany on September 1st, and World War II began. Tragically, at least 40 million to 56 million people are said to have died during World War II, as a result of the war which was fought between 1939 and 1945. But there's another estimate of 19 million to 28 million people that died as a result of war-related disease and famine. Among the Allied nations, the Soviet Union was reportedly suffered the highest number of fatalities, an estimated 18 million. Poland lost an estimated 5.8 million people during World War II, which comprised 20% of its pre-war population. Japan and Germany lost an estimated 1,972,000 and 4,200,000 people respectively, and around 300,000 Americans died in the war. Also, there was an estimated roughly 6 million Jews were murdered in the Holocaust, which reduced the global population of Jews by around 1/3. So it's very clear that World War II was much more deadly than World War I. There were roughly 70 million soldiers that fought in this war. That is the largest amount of soldiers to have ever participated in a global conflict. An interesting fact about the war is that some historians and scholars have argued that the war didn't commence in 1939 at all, but it started 2 years earlier in 1937 when Japan invaded China. Keep watching along closely. We've got everything you need to know about why World War II was so much more deadly coming right up.
What are some similarities between World War I and World War II? Other than the ideologies behind these wars being very similar, there are numerous similarities between World War I and World War II. Both wars happened in Europe, involving most European countries, including the United Kingdom, France, Italy, and Germany. Although America was not heavily involved in the First World War, they were directly affected by the Second World War, being hit by Japanese attacks on Pearl Harbor. Additionally, both wars also had a drastic effect on the economy. The First World War greatly affected the United States economy. Due to their position as a neutral country during this period, the US was largely unable to import any goods from Europe as most shipping routes had been shut down. This essentially halted economic growth in the US for a period. The Second World War also had a negative effect on the US economy, as the country was forced to spend a great deal of money on defense and supplying their allies. Why was World War II so much more deadly? World War I saw a whopping 65 million troops mobilized, which is pretty close to the amount mobilized in World War II. So why was the number of deaths almost doubled? Well, 20 years after World War I, aircraft could now travel faster and farther than ever before, thanks to technological advances. However, there was very little precision in that time's precision bombing at the time. It was imperative that bombs be dropped from planes traveling at 300 miles per hour, so as not to miss their targets. Both sides began to indiscriminately carpet bomb each other's cities. Another reason is that warfare had become faster, covering more ground so it was easier to advance vast distances. Without armored support, troops were unable to advance in fortified trenches during the First World War, resulting in very heavy casualties. Even if an offensive was able to break through enemy lines, mechanized logistics and support were missing, making gains quickly lost. Aircraft and artillery softened up enemy fortifications in World War II, allowing tanks to overrun and neutralize machine gun fire. Support troops then could be brought in quickly in trucks and armored personnel carriers. Since warfare had become faster, it was easier to cover a lot of ground, and thus it was easier to advance large distances. Blitzkrieg is the German army's early success in this type of warfare, in which warfare moves quickly. These were two brutal wars that resulted in millions of deaths. Although the cause of these wars were different, the ideologies behind these wars were the same. These wars were a result of misunderstanding between governments and their people. Now, let's take a look at which war was deadlier. When you compare World War I and World War II, each war had its own unique set of challenges and circumstances. However, the Second World War was the deadliest one, with over 50 million people being killed. This was primarily due to the fact that the Second World War took place in Asia and Europe, where modern warfare was at its peak. Well, there you have it. Everything you need to know about the World War I and World War II comparisons. Were you shocked by which war was deadlier? Let us know down in the comments below. Also, be sure to like the video and subscribe. We wouldn't want you to miss out on any of our similar content. Thanks for watching.